I spent 7 years at Deloitte, earned my CPA, and built a 7-figure portfolio by the age of 30. And what did I learn at the time? Many popular money rules are outdated and completely misguided. These aren't just harmless myths, these are actively keeping you poor. So in this video, I'm gonna share 5 money rules that everyone thinks is good advice, but is actually horrible advice. And I'm gonna also share exactly what to do instead. Rule number 1, cut out all pleasures to build wealth. This is awful advice. Why would you do that? The bad rule of skipping your daily latte, canceling your Netflix subscription, and never eating out because every penny counts, that's flat out wrong and gonna lead you to a miserable lifestyle. There's a thing called sacrifice, but there's also a thing called insanity. Here's the math breakdown and exactly why this is wrong. So $5 a day times 365 days is $18.25 per year. If you're making $100,000, that's less than 2% of your total income. This is going to create psychological burnout and you hating the word budget. And a budget should not be deprivation. A budget should be abundance. When my wife and I started using a budget, we actually spent more money. So you're missing the forest for the trees, and I want you to stop that today. But what to do instead? Focus on the big 3: housing, transportation, and income. Reducing your rent by just $200 a month is going to save you a lifetime of lattes. So you can still buy your $5 latte every single morning as long as you negotiate your rent down or focus on one of the big 3, which is housing, transportation, or income. It's a lot easier to get a 5% raise to your income than cutting out a $5 daily expense. So quick tip, calculate 1% of your total income, and that is your guilt-free spending bucket. That keeps you sane and able to build wealth without being a freak. Rule number 2, always buy instead of rent. The bad rule of renting's throwing away money, you have to buy ASAP. Here's exactly why that's wrong. The math behind the hidden cost of buying 1 to 3% of total home costs per year, that's expensive. Not to mention your property tax and your HOA fees and everything else that comes with the house. For anyone that's ever built or bought a house, you know how many little costs sneak into that purchase by the time you actually move in. You have things around that house that you never would have expected. And so your expectation and reality is usually a pretty big gap. Not to mention the opportunity cost of taking the difference between what you would pay to buy versus what you'd pay to rent and investing that instead. Sometimes that actually can be more profitable long-term if you know what you're doing with that and you actually take the difference and use that to your advantage, which, plot twist, most don't. So that's why this rule is typically berated amongst the mass population, because the masses suck with money, but that's why you're listening to me. And the last thing is the loss of flexibility in your career and life. My brother's a great example of this. He moved to 5 different cities in 7 years, and so he rented each time. However, when you look at myself, I lived in one city for the first 7 years of my life, so therefore we bought our house. And it made sense for both of us. So here's what to do instead. Only buy when you're gonna stay there 5+ years, your mortgage payment is less than 25% of your monthly take-home pay, what actually hits your bank, and you've ran a rent versus buy calculator. And because my brother rented instead of buying, he actually amassed $120,000 in investments in that meantime. So here's a quick tip. Use the 5% rule. If your annual rent is less than 5% of the home price, keep renting. Rule number 3, pay off all debt before investing. And yes, you're talking to Budget Dog, and yes, I just said that. That is a bad rule. The bad rule of debt is evil. Pay every penny of debt off before you invest. That is a horrible rule. Now, that's not to say I didn't do that myself, but I was able to pay off $76,000 of debt in 1 year at the age of 23. And obviously we became financially free as a result. So our situation doesn't always align, and that's why it depends. And to preface, 78% of people live paycheck to paycheck. This isn't really directed to the people that are struggling with money. This is directed to people that want to win with money. And they position themselves in my content, whether they attend my free events, they bought my national bestseller, The Roadmap to Financial Freedom. You can get that in the show notes below. Or you've actually joined Budget Dog Academy, which you can do today by booking a call in the show notes below and taking your game to the next level. This is where we're going to build you an automated financial roadmap that takes you no longer than 30 minutes a month, that gives you full confidence and clarity with every single financial goal that you ever have. And we walk through with you one-on-one, and you have a community to support you behind that. Not to mention, I give you all my investment deals, and you're in there for a lifetime. It's pretty unbeatable, but you can go in the show notes below and book your call today with my team. But you have to be a serious individual. Do not waste my time and do not waste your time. But here's exactly why that rule is wrong. If you have low interest debt under 4%, you could take the additional money that you would be paying towards that extra debt and be putting it into the stock market. Now, theoretically, the average stock market return over the last hundreds of years is 10% annually. However, that doesn't usually play out to be the case. Usually it's less than 6% of the time. The actual return is 8 to 12% in any given year. So therefore, you're going to have wild swings both ways. And sometimes it's going to make sense to pay off your debt and sometimes it's not. And the reality is you're not going to be able to predict that. So you have to create a plan that works for you. And if you don't know how to create a plan around everything from debt and investing and what's the most optimal, that's where I come into play. So you could be missing out on years of compound interest. And I don't want you to do that. I think there's three types of people when it comes to debt. The people that are always going to be in debt and they just struggle with money and they're never really proactive about their money. I think the second person is that they're so scared of their debt that that's all they can focus on. And that's a really poor mindset. And that's where you never really get rich. And I think the third person is somebody that's extremely proactive, just doesn't want debt in general like myself, but can still build exponential wealth by paying that debt off and not really using debt as a wealth builder in their journey. You have to know which type of person you are and be honest. Look yourself in the mirror and just tell yourself the truth. Because it's crazy. When you tell people the truth, people get really offended. And it's 2025 and I don't give a damn. You will always get the truth with me. And that's why my students get the best results, because they can handle the truth. And the last thing to think about is inflation actually helps with fixed debt. If you have a low interest mortgage of under 3% and inflation's 3%, you actually may be winning based on the numbers. And we know the government's lying to us with the CPI data. Inflation's not 3%. We already know inflation's much higher than that. But there's a lot of NPCs that actually believe the government, which I don't feel bad for you. And clearly, those people want to be lied to and not told the truth, which is why they're probably not even listening to this video. Those are the people you find online that say it's impossible to build wealth. Those people, the people that don't find their ways around this side of the internet. So what to do instead? When I think of paying off debt or investing, I think, what makes you sleep best at night, while also considering the math behind it. You could use the debt hierarchy just like this: pay minimums on everything, eliminate debt over 6%, and then invest while paying off low interest debt. That's an easy route to take, but that might not be suitable for you. So here's a quick tip. Build your balance sheet today. List all of your debts by interest rate. Anything under 5%, start investing alongside those payments. Anything above 6%, take all the extra money and pay that down. And I hope you know what a balance sheet is, because that's like Finance 101. And if you don't, that's okay. That's why you need to go in the show notes below and book a call with my team today. And just be truthful with yourself that you need some help. Rule number 4, you need 6 months of emergency savings. You know the bad rule, everyone needs 6 months of savings before they start doing anything else. That's very wrong, because one size does not fit all. And that's why Dave Ramsey's approach does not work. It's also an opportunity cost with that huge cash pile to go elsewhere. And your situation matters more than the rules. Not to mention, I don't have an emergency fund because it's all in my brokerage account, which is invested. Now, I do have well over $2 million in that brokerage account. So yes, I have access to liquidity, but as you build your wealth, you shouldn't be keeping your money in cash. In fact, I think I keep $5,000 to $10,000 in cash at any point in time. And that's simply to cover my investment flow as well as my expenses, so I don't literally go under zero. And outside of that, I don't keep money in savings. But along the way, building my wealth, I did at one point in time. And this is why at different levels, there are different rules of wealth. And I like to share the reality of what I've done and what I'm doing now to help guide you along this journey. So here's what to do instead. Here's the stable emergency fund. You have a stable job with no kids. 2 to 3 months is probably fine. You're a freelancer and or commission-based. Probably 6 months on the personal side, but also a business reserve too if you are a freelancer. Dual income household, 3 to 4 months. Single income with kids, definitely 6 months. So here's a quick tip. Calculate your 1 month of expenses here. Start there and then adjust based on your situation. And again, there's no perfect science to this. It's whatever you feel most comfortable with, while also taking into consideration the math behind it. A lot of people get way too conservative here because they don't know what to do with their money, and they're actually just living in a state of fear. And more money won't take away that fear, so they just continue to hoard their whole life. And those people lose very big. Rule number 5, diversify into everything. The bad rule of don't put all your eggs in one basket. Own stocks, bonds, real estate, crypto, cash, gold, etc. Here's why that's wrong. Over diversification can lead to very bad returns. And there's a lot of complexity without added benefit. And the truth is, most people can't manage more than a couple of investments. So here's what to do instead. The 90-10 portfolio. 90% of your money into 1 to 5 index funds or ETFs. And then the other 10% can be used for speculation and learning, the educational side. And if you don't know what you're doing, you should spend a lot of money on education up front so that you're not left behind. Because if you don't know what you don't know, you're going to get crushed and you're going to lose so much money. And it's going to be more expensive than the education you paid for. It's kind of like The cost of not going to the gym is much greater than the cost of going to the gym. That membership's like $35 a month, but your health is everything. But most brokies never think about it like that, and that's why they stay broke. And the key is to master the basics before adding complexity. I put a tweet out the other day that most good investors' timeline goes like this: beginner, index funds and ETFs; intermediate, silly, risky stuff; and advanced, index funds and ETFs. They come full cycle usually, and they come back to the truth, which is what we preach here. So here's a quick tip. Add up all of your investments across the board. And that's the investment funds and the actual investments within the actual accounts, not the accounts themselves. If there's more than 7, it's time to simplify. So here's the conclusion. So following conventional money rules is why people are broke. The wealthy don't follow these rules. They understand the math and the psychology behind building wealth. So start by breaking one of these rules this week, and your future self will thank you. And if you want to see exactly how I break down my portfolio, check the top right-hand corner to click on that video. I'll show you my whole portfolio. And it might be a little outdated, but if you're in the academy, you know what we're buying every single day, because I share every single buy with my students as well as my portfolio, so they have a full comprehensive look all the time, 24/7, and they're caught up to date, so they're not looking at something that's old. Because things change, and if you're not in the circle of a financial professional along with other families trying to build wealth, you're not going to do the same stuff that we do. But again, you can start your journey today by going in the show notes below and booking a call with my team to take this to the next level. And if this helped you with your money, hit subscribe. We drop videos every Monday and Thursday now. This is a big update that we're making with our YouTube channel, and we're putting out more content more often, and I want to see you here. With that being said, I'll talk to you soon.